Okay, what's good? So this is just talking a little about the corruption snapshotting. There's a bunch of things that people don't understand about it. Also, if you don't know the fundamentals to affliction, I would recommend waiting until I release a guide on like how to play it. Snapshotting is more like upper tier of affliction. It'll greatly improve your DPS, but it's one of those things where you have to already know a lot about the class. So main takeaway from a guide that I did not write. I don't know who did, but I will link it and give him credit there. Just one of the most amazing affliction guides. Definitely check it out, especially if you're one of the people who likes reading shit. So most important thing from this is that basically anything that has crit on the boss, so buffs, debuffs, and then any damage buffs that you have or that are external, that are percentage based. So I listed a bunch here. Things like Thaddeus buff, and again, all these things are going to stack with tricks, and these are 5% per stack. So right here, this is, what is that, 65%? You stack that with tricks, that means your corruption is going to do 80% the entire fight. But yeah, just some more basics. Spell power does not stack. People always confuse that. Same for haste. Does not stack with corruption. The way that it's rolling, when people talk about corruption rolling, is every time you cast Shadow Bolt or Haunt or something like that, you are basically reapplying your corruption automatically. Or not reapplying, but refreshing, that's the word, your corruption automatically. But it keeps all these buffs. So yeah, these are all just a bunch of external things. This is your 4-piece tier 10. There's also a few other things. In TOC, there's a buff. That's kind of it for like externals and stuff. So yeah, other things, there's obviously tricks. And then this is just a list of all the different crit buffs and consumables and stuff that you can use. So yeah, you're always, out of all of these, you're always going to have either a Boomy or an Ellie. Either that or your raid's griefing. This right here is why you're basically always opening on the boss with Shadow Bolt and not something else, because you immediately put the 5% crit on the boss. This is why you open with wild magic a lot of the time. This isn't always the case, but basically if you're able to hold a corruption for the entire fight, for the entire duration of a fight, you should be opening with wild magic, especially if you are lusting on the pull. If you're lusting on the pull and then you use the haste pot, which would be the alternative to this, you probably go over global cooldown cap. Especially if you get an eradication proc or something like that, you're kind of just gimping your DPS. And if you were to haste pot, you also don't get to snapshot your corruption. But some other things. So I will demonstrate this, but this is a weapon enchant. Obviously, this isn't the best in slot enchant for your weapon, but I will show you how you can utilize this weapon enchant. And then this is Death's Embrace. This is 3 up from the bottom of your talent tree. I covered up the rest of this shit. You don't need to see it. The most important part is increases the damage by your shadow spells by 12% when your target is under 35% health. So what does that mean? That means that at 35% health, you are absolutely going to ask for a Tricks of the Trade and hopefully get it. And then after Tricks applies to your character and the boss is also 35%, you reapply Corruption. Okay? That way from 35 to 0% of the boss's health, your corruption is going to do 27%, not just the 12 from your talent. It's going to do 12, and then it's also going to do the 15 from tricks. Some other things. So this is focus magic. I think ideally in a perfect world, you have focus magic for the pull on all of your affliction locks, and then about 10 seconds in, the mage reapplies focus magic to a different class, either a boomkin or a different mage that they're swapping with. I think it's just it's worth a mage's global. It's a ton of crit for just a global. You know what I mean? So yeah, there is also Firestone, and this is also, these two are going to be, I'll talk about those in a second, but those kind of go together. Alright, so the enchant weapon accuracy and the Firestone, I was kind of alluding to the ability to snapshot crit weapons and wands. You can also do this with a main hand and an offhand. So this is just an example for tier 7. This is going to be your BIS crit weapon to snapshot your corruption with, and this is going to be the BIS wand that you would do it with. If you were to add all this up, all these lovely things, it's an extra 8% crit on your corruption for the entire fight. You only, by weapon swapping, you're only losing like half of a global if you do it correctly. And I'm going to demonstrate how you would do it in just a second. Okay, so this is, I'm just demonstrating how you would actually snapshot the corruption. So right here I'm showing you the crit weapons that I'm using. I don't have a crit wand, but just pretend. If you notice, I had the Firestone on. Okay, so this is how you would open. You would life tap beforehand, you pop the wild magic, you send your pet in, Shadow Bolt needs to hit. I actually need to go way slower than this. So we're gonna go really, really slow. This is very difficult to perform, and it's gonna take you a lot of practice. So let's start from the beginning. Okay, so from the beginning, you would life tap pre-pull. You also need to make sure that your 3 items that you're swapping with don't put you below hit cap. And if you do go below hit cap, don't go that far down, because otherwise you're just going to miss, potentially. You're going to miss your first Shadow Bolt, or you're going to miss your corruption, and you're going to fuck everything up. But yeah, anyway, let's continue through the opener. So right here, let's start from here. Just life tapped, so I have my life tap buff now. And this is before anybody has engaged the boss. Ideally, you DBM pre-pull, 2-second cast, so you would start casting this at like 1 second because of travel time. This is your wild magic pot, and yeah, let's keep going. So you send your pet in. Now, again, I want to note that Shadow Bolt has a travel time, so you need to wait. You cannot just apply corruption right now. The actual crit debuff on this dummy has not hit yet, so you cannot corruption. So instead, right after the Shadow Bolt, I go for Unstable Affliction. Usually, so in this case, you see that the buff is up, the crit buff is up. Usually you're not this close to your target though. Like, let's say it were Patchwork, you would have already pulled the boss in this scenario. So let's say that you're all the way back there. Your Shadow Bolt probably hasn't hit the boss yet after your Unstable Affliction. So just out of muscle memory, after this Unstable Affliction, I immediately Agony. And then right here, just to make sure that I get the video right, right here, I have all of my crit that I'm going to get. I still have my wild magic up. Ideally, right here, ideally I get my tricks right before this corruption goes off. You're going to get your tricks as soon as the rogue hits the boss, basically. So right now I have my crit buffs, I have my crit Firestone, I have my crit items. I also have my tricks hitting me. Now this is very quick. So I applied the corruption. Now watch this. Watch this right here. Because weapon swapping does not apply a global. It applies a global as soon as, like, it doesn't need to be used off of the global cooldown. So as soon as I'm as quick as I can hit my keybind, it'll swap gear. So watch down here. Watch down here this entire time. So I apply my corruption. and then it immediately swaps. We'll do that really slow again. So agony, corruption. You see it's like halfway, and then I weapon swapped. So yeah, you can even go like 0.25 speed and watch that. But yeah, now I have my normal items on. I have my 63 spell power. I have my normal spell stone. I have my normal amount of haste and crit, or haste and hit rating and stuff. And you notice that my crit actually got lower because, you know, I swapped off my gear. But from here on out, you would just swap to a normal rotation. You know, you keep your Han up, you keep all your dots up. Ideally, you don't lose corruption, yada, yada, yada. So, yeah, thanks for watching. If you have any other snapshotting questions, feel free to just type it in the comments. Make sure you check the description because it's going to have links to a bunch of different stuff. All the macros, all that good stuff. Catch y'all later.